You're listening to Media Automated. Join us as we explore the intersection between self-improvement and business excellence, showing you the strategies that will help you take your message, your brand, and your podcast to the next level. Let's begin. We have a real problem with being real. My name is Bryce Prescott. Welcome to another episode of Media Automated, where self-improvement meets business excellence. I've gone back and forth on exactly what I should talk about on this episode, especially when I consider the more grand kind of narrative and arc of what I'm seeking to create here for you as a viewer and listener of this podcast. I know that some of you are tuning in for specific, actual, tangible, principles of success in business related to marketing. I know we've talked about ChatGPT. I've talked about the pillars of marketing. And I agree, there's some things that we're going to be having coming down the pipe in the coming weeks that will be very granular, very specific on how to just present a better message, the nuts and bolts of actually being better at your message. But I have to be honest with you. Today, something called to me to talk about this topic. And it started from someplace personal, actually. If you'll indulge me, I just wanted to share with you. This morning for me was very challenging in a lot of different ways. I found myself kind of pushing up against boundaries inside of myself as far as like my own identity, who I am, what my needs are, what it is that I'm actually doing here as a founder in Media Automated, what I am doing as a dad, as a husband, as a friend. And I started realizing something. I started realizing that a lot of us believe things that are inherently foundationally untrue. And we put our time and attention into believing these things, expecting to get a result that would uplift us. And it doesn't. What it does then is it allows us to then and causes us to internalize why we're not getting the result, why we're not having the experience that we think we should be having. And that whole mess is a big, big problem. Now, when you factor in how people are lonely, more lonely than they've been in recent times, when we factor in how social media has really played a massive role in the degradation of our society. Social media has an incredible gift that it's providing to us, and it's something where we can connect and we can interact and we can learn and we can be entertained. But it also has a debit. And that debit is one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because the truth of the matter is that we are all being fake. We are all being fake. And I even recognize that a part of the things that I've learned on how to be better at business and how to be better at branding and messaging, things that I've wanted to pass along to you, that I have to be very, very careful about how I teach them and how I even live them myself, because what I do not want to achieve for myself, nor do I want you to achieve this, is to have this shiny, beautiful veneer to your life, to your business, to your product, to your service, to who you are, to your interests, to your relationships. Have this shiny veneer where everything looks good, but on the actual inside of it, the yolk to the egg, you're miserable. You're not telling the truth to yourself. You're lying about things. You've become an expert at gaslighting things. You become an expert not at just gaslighting things, but yourself. You see, we're fake. So many of us, so many of you, you listening, watching this, you're not telling the truth. You're not being honest with yourself. And we have every excuse. We have all of the things around us on why we don't do that. We're told that stop believing the stories that we tell about ourselves. Stop allowing there to be an external viewpoint of yourself. You get to choose who you are and how you see yourself. And while those things have elements of truth, there is a portion of them that is not based in reality that you have to reconcile. And so most of us don't reconcile it very well. We push it down, we hide it away, we don't look at the fact that a lot of times in our lives, we don't trust ourselves. We're not in environments that are supportive. We actually don't have our needs on a regular basis. We're not in relationships, in our friendships, in our community groups, even in our marital relationships. We don't get what we need. But we talk ourselves into thinking that we do. This morning, I went on a walk near my home. There's a creek that's not too far away from my house. And just from a personal standpoint, this week has been a challenging week in that I've been feeling horrible in my body. Last week, I overtrained my body as I was lifting weights, and then I think I got some sort of flu bug as well. And so I just haven't felt high energy. I haven't felt on my game. And but yet I've tried to push through. And I've tried to, allow myself to be like, okay, this is a story I'm telling myself. My body is wonderfully healthy, which it is. I love my body. I'm fully grateful for how it responds to things quickly. But I wasn't acknowledging from my thoughts, my feelings, the physical nature of my life. Like, I wasn't acknowledging some things that were very real to me. I was trying to gaslight myself into thinking they weren't real. And something snapped for me. I started walking on my walk, and I picked up my phone, and I wanted to share some sort of anecdote on my Instagram stories. I wanted to live my brand. I wanted to give some sort of feedback, some sort of great thing for the people that follow me that would make them thankful that they tuned in and that they watched my stuff. So I put on my marketing hat. I was feeling shitty. I wasn't feeling very good about things in my life. I had a lot of reasons for that. And I tried to turn it around. I tried to film with my phone. I'm like, all right, we're going to do this. What's my hook? I started going through my mind the things that I should say in order to engage you as a viewer. And it's all stuff that's actually psychologically relevant. There's certain formats and ways that you can present the content that you create that makes it to where people want to stick around and listen. The funny thing is that it's been forced because what social media has done for us is made our attention spans nil. We have a couple seconds, just a few minor seconds to be able to grab attention on social media when it comes to getting people to engage with us in our content, which, let's be real, you're watching and listening to Media Automated, which means to engage with your business, your product, your service, the thing that puts food on your table, that gives you the life and lifestyle that you want or that you hope it would. So I'm sitting here holding my phone. I'm trying to think of things to say. I record something. I realize it sounds like horseshit. There was not an ounce of authenticity with it. I'm like, this isn't me. This isn't my moment. I don't have anything inspiring to say. I'm not the pillar of the community right now. I'm really struggling. And so I just tried saying that. I started off my remarks in my story saying, I'm on one, fellas. Buckle up. And I just shared some realness. I shared that I wasn't feeling good in my body, that I had all these things I was dealing with in my heart and mind, that my head was a mess. I talked about the business of motivation, which in a form is what we're doing here. Even though I have a product and service with Media Automated to help you with your podcast and your branding, there's a part of what I'm doing. I'm trying to motivate you. There's a business of motivation. And for a brief moment, I was disgusted by it. And I thought, what a bunch of nonsense. Things like the law of attraction. There's aspects of it that are real. Absolutely. The things that you think about, they create more of that in your life. That's absolutely real. That's a tried and true principle. But there's a lot of other things in there that I actually don't have evidence to truly prove it. It's more hyperbole. And I acknowledge that. And to myself, I'm like, look, I think I believe these things. I don't know, though. And what I realized is the moment that I was in was one that was created by this unwillingness just to be real with myself for long periods of time. Not saying this part of my life sucks. Do I have great parts of my life? Yeah. But this part sucks. This part, I've missed the mark. This part, back on me, I have not been doing the work. I have not been holding myself to account. I have not been being honorable to me. I also realized how It's just how everybody else is too. So today I wanted to talk about keeping it real. I wanted to acknowledge that we all have moments of dishonesty with ourselves. We're all liars. Now, how many lies we string together before we snap that and we crack the code and we start being honest with ourselves, that's a different question. Every different person has a different answer. But I wanted to say that if you're going to be successful in your business, if you're going to have a thriving business that grows, you have to understand why you have that business. You have to understand your purpose in a very real way. And I think this is a lot of where we start being dishonest with ourselves. You've heard phrases thrown around, your why is so important. Until you understand your why, nothing will make sense. That's true. But I don't think we're honest with ourselves about why we want to do things. We prejudge ourselves, thinking we don't ever want to think about ourselves that we're not a good person. Actually, that's one of the conditions of the human spirit. We will always justify our behaviors to prove to ourselves that we're good people. Even so much so that we are willing to be broke and poor and unhealthy and in crap relationships because we've been able to gaslight and mold this experience into show something that I'm doing the right reason. I'm being charitable. I'm being honest at my expense. Woe is me, but look at how good of a person I am. Even though our life sucks, there's no legacy, the people around us don't respect us because we don't respect ourselves. We will do that so that inside we can at least justify and think, I'm a good person. Do you realize how silly that is? One of the things I learned as I did mindset training about wealth was that if you have unhealthy thoughts and beliefs about money and those who have money, you will sabotage yourself on a subconscious level to ever having money. If money is held by people that you disrespect right now and that you don't value, you do not want to be one of them. And so guess what? You won't be. You'll never get money. You have to come to terms with the fact that your beliefs dictate for you your results. But we don't want to acknowledge that. We talk shit, we gossip, we have all of our reasons that we do the things we do, and then we don't really connect the dots at the end of the day. You don't, I don't, about why things suck so bad. Why am I really struggling? Oh, maybe it's because you hold all this disdain for truly successful people out of jealousy, thinking that you're worth it when you haven't even been doing the work yourself that would justify those results for you. You see where I'm getting at with this? We got to stop lying to ourselves. Because at that base level, when we're finally on the hook because we've thought and said those truthful words to ourselves, about our businesses, what we're doing, why we're doing it, only then will we have the data that we need to actually enact powerful change in our lives, in our businesses, in our bodies, and in our spirit. We cannot manufacture purpose. We have to believe that the reasons why we're doing things are the reasons why we're doing things. And that means sometimes acknowledging it. I'm doing this for the money. That might mean acknowledging I want to be famous because on some level I'm insecure. And I think that if I get attention from strangers, that'll make me feel better about myself. We have to say and acknowledge these things to be able to break the thing. That is a horribly unhealthy and insecure place to be, to crave engagement and fame and influence because you're insecure. But if you're listening to this and you're watching this, you can feel if I'm telling the truth about you or not. You know if that's you or not. And if it is, you got to fucking acknowledge that and then start from there in changing it, because you also know intellectually that is not good. And when you actually get the fame, the money, the influence, you will not be the type of person that could hold on to it or that would be worthy of keeping it going because you're in it for the wrong reasons. It's incredible how much we gaslight ourselves to thinking we're actually doing good. Now, I'm not saying these things to talk shit on you or to make you feel worse about yourself. I'm saying these things because just like this morning when I had that moment where I just spilled the beans, I actually was real publicly. I removed the fear that I had that by sharing pain in a moment of pain, that it was actually going to make me more poor or going to deny me trust, or it was going to do something bad for my business or have people judge me. I let go of all of that because at the end of the day, I didn't care. I stopped caring. I legitimately said to myself, who are you caring about this for? Who's going to judge you? People you don't like anyway? Like, when you start to piece together this shit, it becomes very clear that we're not very smart about what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so we can get really smart very quickly by simply acknowledging and telling the truth finally to ourselves. Acknowledging, man, I spout to the world, I'm the best there is. I don't know that's true. We want money and we want influence and we want great businesses, but we haven't done the work internally inside of our minds and externally learning the principles and strategies to be successful, to actually handle it if we were to get success. And the funny thing is that this is at every level. Every single level. You can be just starting off your business, wallowing in debt, barely making ends meet, and be experiencing this level of uncertainty and fear. And you can also be over 7 figures a year experiencing the same feelings of fear, of imposter syndrome, of what am I doing? I got myself in too deep. That's another thing that I noticed. Oftentimes with businesses, we feel this temptation to scale, that we're supposed to take our business to the next level. Well, what if you don't want to? And you haven't been willing to acknowledge that to yourself, that you actually aren't on fire about what you're doing and that you're doing it for the money. What do you do then? You do what I just said. You get real about where you're really at. No judgment, curiosity. Be curious about yourself, about your feelings, about why you're doing the things, and then be okay with it. What happens then if you don't do this? What happens if you just keep living the lie? You keep living in that space where things aren't going the way you want them to, but you get small wins every now and then. You're kind of in the pit. You don't know how to handle it. You feel alone. You're succeeding, kind of. You're barely holding it together in some days. Other days you have great wins, but your heart's not in it. What happens if you just stay in that place? Have you thought about this? Have you walked it down the line? This is what happens when you stay in that place of personal dishonesty about where you're at and why you're doing what you're doing. You will continually slope down further and further into feeling less worthy, less lovable. You'll do things that sabotage your business and your life. You'll struggle. You'll fail. You'll sedate. There's a common theme in all of these things that we've talked about here on this show. And that if you don't fix the shit that's going on with you, you get honest with yourself, you get really clear about what you want and why you want it, you have a vision of where you'd like to take this, and it's rooted in something that's real for you, that you have an emotional response to, you don't do these things, you live a miserable life. There's no other way around it. When you're living out of alignment long enough, you will stay there and be miserable. And you will fill your life with things that you think will give you momentary reprieves. Drinking, drugs, pornography, food, the whole thing. You will not live in an energy of expansion and growth. You will feel like you're walking in mud. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that at all. That sucks. I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for you. And the beautiful part about this is that the solution to this, even though we can't solve it here on a podcast, there's nothing that I can say or do right now that's going to actually change it for you. But what you can do for yourself is you can just get real. If what I've said today has mattered and it makes a difference and it's kind of poking your heart in the way, I want you just to take 10 quiet minutes. Doesn't matter where, by yourself. Maybe you're in your car, maybe you go for a walk, maybe whatever, it doesn't matter. And I just want you to ask yourself, where am I lying to myself? What am I trying to think is one way, but actually is another way, and I know it? And then follow that up with, why do I keep continuing to do this? And the answer that will come is you realize the reason's dumb. It's fucking stupid. There's no reason to keep doing these things. It is killing you slowly. You want to talk about why we have such an epidemic of suicide and loneliness and depression right now in 2023? It's because of this. We are not being honest with ourselves. We live in a culture and a world where there is something that is being preached as objective truth that is actually subjective truth. We're being told that truth is pliable. So if I convince myself, yeah, I'm happy enough, and I pop another pill, then I guess I am happy enough, when the reality of it is you're not. And you know it, you just don't want to admit it. So you have to get real. My encouragement to you is, if you're feeling a sting of truth with what I'm saying here, follow that. It doesn't have to stay that way. I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say this too. There's one other thing that I want to encourage you to do. I want you to take your heroes off the pedestal. There is a business of motivation and coaching. And as somebody that has rubbed shoulders and even been friends with some very successful high-level coaches, high-level consultants, I'll tell you this. Most of them are full of shit. They have one area of their life and their experience that is really great, and they've done amazing things with it, and they have good results, great results oftentimes, and they can teach you that part in a very good way. But the other stuff, they're just like you, and so you do not need to keep them on that pedestal. Be inspired and motivated by the people that have results in the things that you want, and don't assume their results are all across the board. That's another thing, this hero worship that we get into, it perpetuates our own dishonesty for us. Because we have these unrealistic expectations. Well, that person over there, they're doing it. How do you know? You're seeing the highlight reel. You're seeing the beautifully crafted copy. You're seeing the messaging that you don't know the depth of sorrow or pain or hypocrisy they were in when they wrote it. So take it for what it is, use it for your own good, and let the buck stop there. Turn back on yourself and realize, this is where I need to be. I need to be honest with myself. I need to take that dude off the pedestal. I'm more important anyway. Let's get real. Let's stop lying. Like, truly. In everything. Somebody that I respect a lot tells an experience back before, I think it was in 2009, how just this thing clicked in his head. He decided to stop lying at every turn. He didn't become rude, but he just stopped sugarcoating things about himself, about what he wanted, about his life, about where he actually was in his life. And to this day, right now, he's one of the most successful people that I know. Undeniable success. $30 million house on the beach. $3 million worth of cars in his garage. Multiple millions of dollars of profit every year in his business. Marriage on fire. This guy's shredded. And when you talk to him directly, he says that the thing that changed for him, the linchpin that blew everything up for him, was he stopped lying to himself. Which in turn made it so he could stop lying to everyone else too. My friends, look, I know this is a different type of episode. And I hope that you'll indulge me. You'll take the words and the messaging and the things that I've shared here and know that it really comes from a place inside me where I'm just trying to help us heal. All of us are walking around with wounds and with trauma and with things we don't know how to handle and we don't know who to talk about it with. And the beautiful irony of that is the quickest way to heal from that is just to start talking to yourself about it in a very real way. It will expose the work you need to do. And what a beautiful thing to be able to truly diagnose where you get to add attention and intention to your own journey for healing, for growth, and success. Because at the end of the day, that's what we want. That we want to have amazing, on-fire lives. We want to have great businesses that give us tons of profit, that do great work for other people, that have good reputations, that are known for being disruptive in our industries because we're so good at it and that we're so valuable. And we feel that as an extension of ourselves and our work. That's what all of us want. But in order to get there, you got to strip everything away down to the foundation. And if that foundation has cracks in it, and you're not being honest with yourself, and you're not really leaning into the things that you know need to be fixed about you because you haven't been willing to even acknowledge that they need to be fixed about you, you're fucked. So just stop. I have an ask as I wrap this up. That if this message resonated with you, that you would help me share it. This is still a new podcast. This is the 7th episode of this podcast. I'm trying to grow this into more opportunities to help people, not just in their businesses, but in their lives. Because I know a simple fact that if you don't have your shit together, your business will reflect it. And so if you really want to have a strong brand and great messaging, it starts with you. So help me get this into the eyes and ears of more people that need to hear it. I appreciate you. I appreciate every rating and review that I've received. I appreciate every subscription I received. I appreciate every time somebody screenshots me and posts it on social. If you have felt a moment of inspiration or a prick of truth from this, please do those things. Help me share this message. I appreciate you, my friends. My name is Bryce Prescott. This has been another episode of Media Automated, where self-improvement meets business excellence.